So, some of you have actually seen me on some of Miles's other things, talking about various things. And always I'm coming out with this stuff about my mother being a medium and how she's taken down a lot of stuff about life and death and absolutely everything that pertains to humanity and how we work and reincarnation. So I've decided to do another little bit because I feel at the moment it's almost as though somebody knows what makes us happy and is gradually depriving us of it. So at the moment, everything has to be, let me have a look. I've got my crib sheet here. Destroy all the things that make us happy, all the values that are inside people, which we know are not the right thing, pushing homosexuality down everybody's throats. Some of these homosexual people are magnificent people in other ways, but let them get on with it. I don't want to know. Upsetting children with telling them very young about sex in a very graphic way, long before they have any feelings of that kind, and ruining their childhood, making them unhappy. We've now got this social distancing thing. We're not allowed to get together and hug each other or see our families. Being told that, we all have to have these viruses at school and since, the dawn of time. And I think that a lot of these viruses are now being found to be terribly dangerous. All the time on the television, gambling, pressure to mix races. Every advert, every story has mixed race people. Has nobody ever thought that race is a very important thing and every race is really precious? And that it's not just a haphazard accident. It is meant to be, and racial purity in every kind is terribly important because we all start off as pondweed and then we gradually become a combination of many different creatures over many millions of years. And then we all go through various different races. And the thing that is very, very important is that apparently, it's one of the things that Christ is supposed to have said in the Bible, in my Father's house there are many mansions, which means that we all have areas where large numbers of our family clans go to. Unfortunately, because of people mixing up so much, moving across the world, slavery of all races since long before Christ came, so many of us have lost our family clans. And one of the things that we don't know about, which we should know about, at the moment, there seems to be this thing that everybody just imagines that they're going to die and somebody's just going to put them in another body. Well, why should you listen to me? But I have to say to you, look around yourself. Whose body would you like to be in? Quite frankly, I very rarely see anybody who I would imagine is even remotely good looking. And I'm quite happy to be in my own, thank you very much. And I want to explain to people why it is that you won't be just put in another body. I'm sure that, possibly people like Miles have got all sorts of information from, people who've been working with aliens. But how do we know that they don't really know what the truth is either and that they're giving the wrong information? So but everything we should know is supposed to be logical and sensible. So basically, and our doctors should be finding this out now, all of us work on different electrical frequencies, and there are roughly about 9 or 10 different electrical frequencies. You know how sometimes you can find some people who you can just talk to forever. You don't find them difficult. You don't have to think of the next thing to say. Everything just flows. You feel comfortable with them. We know about that people have different blood groups. Really, in the future, we should all know our blood groups, any kind of health problems. We should carry a card with it, really, and our different blood groups. One of the things that's going wrong with us now is that people are marrying people or having sex with or having children with somebody who's completely the wrong frequency for them. And so their children are born with bodies that some parts of it should work on some frequency and some of another. So consequently, you get illness. And you get, it says in the old Chinese things that all the large organs should be able to, or the circuits that they're on, should be able to submit to the heart. If it can't, then you get problems with your digestion, you get problems, girls get problems with periods, children go through the most terrible depressions during puberty. And this is just a small number of things that are going wrong with us now. So we should all know about these things. And why should it all work? I'm having to think about this now. The thing I should have said there, when we call it making love, because the spirit of the person, the entity of the person, if you're to have sex with somebody, or to make love with somebody, if that person is really someone you love very much and you find sex with them very easy because you're on the right electrical frequency with them, that actually gives your soul, gives your entity a recharge, which is why people who are really happy together look so much better, look lovely. Girls and men who have sex with all sorts of people and are promiscuous, they get to look ill, particularly after 30. It ruins their looks. It ruins their internal workings. That's how it's meant to be. The Victorians were very shocked by all those very irregular statues all over temples in India. But they have had some sort of a message. The Indians have been probably the previous civilization on this planet. And they've had some sort of a message. And there's a lot of very valuable knowledge in the Vedas and the Mahabharata. So we're kind of misinterpreting what happens. So say you find two people who are of the same family clan, similar. They fall in love with each other. They are on the right electrical frequency, and they have compatible blood groups, and they make love, and you get the little egg which the woman has produced and the sperm from the man, and this starts to make the beginnings of birth. And one thing that I should say, we know that men produce some sperm that are male and some female, but also apparently women do too. They produce an egg which is, some women have children, more girl children, and some more boys, and they're not produced randomly. There are certain times when somebody wants a child and they can't have one because they're to be sent a certain child. And so you have to wait until that certain egg turns up to be fertilized by the right man. And then that child is born. So you have a time to be born and a time to die. So what happens is you get the cell then starts to divide. And you can look at the sperm as though it was, you could say that's a sort of programming the computer, which is the egg. So it starts to divide, and then when it gets to about 13, 14 weeks, it's what we call the quickening. So by that time, you have a little body which is probably about 3 or 4 inches long. And there's a little heartbeat there. But the mother doesn't feel it moving. She doesn't feel it moving until the quickening comes. And that's at that certain time. That's when they put the entity or the spirit or the soul of that child goes into the body. And sometimes it's sort of semi-computerized. And so once ovulation has taken place and fertilization has occurred, the woman, without knowing it, gives off masses of these little microbes, which are apparently programmed to go to the right place. so that the right child is then bought and put into that egg. And it is then, it's the soul of that person, you, me, anyone else, that starts to grow the body, which is why none of us are exactly like our parents or like our brothers and sisters. But one thing that nobody has ever told us is that we know that we make the body, the little body, and that starts to grow, but we also make another body. We make a body, the body that we call a spiritual body, but it isn't really a spiritual body. It's not like gas or anything. It's as real on the other dimension as our body is here. So basically you can say that the planet is multidimensional. We are multidimensional. But we only really need to know about the two bodies. So you're making your corporal body, your body here, and at the same time, in some magical way within you, you have your spiritual body, your body which goes with you after death. And both of these bodies can be destroyed. And your soul, which is the most amazing thing, which nobody truly understands, can be reduced in size to something that is like such a small speck you probably couldn't even see it on a microscope. And both of these bodies, the body here and the body for after death body, both those can be destroyed. So what happens is that your little body is being made inside your mother until it's time for you to be born. And your entity continues then for you to grow. And people who have parents who are exactly right, maybe the parents will have certain problems, but that child won't. And I have to say, I noticed my little niece, who is not even 3, she is so coordinated. It's quite extraordinary. And I noticed her on her little, there was a back view film of her on her little scooter going along. And she just was standing on one leg with the other leg lifted right up by her ear. I've never been able to do that. So that child obviously has a future in the circus. Anyway, so once you're born, you continue to grow. And obviously there are things which still aren't formed. We're very, very helpless at that time. So you haven't been just given a body. Your body is growing itself, depending on what you do with your body. If you let it get fat, you don't take any exercise, you don't eat properly. If you're not a nice person, if you're very promiscuous, so many things influence the way we look, the way we are. And every single person who is here now has lived millions of times before. And people who are famous now have been often famous before. So we go on like that until we get to the end of our lives, and then we die, and the body, as we know, digests itself. And microbes, again, then are sort of given off. And very often, people who we have loved before, who are still on the other side, and most of them don't want to be on the other side for too long, come to help you, to take you to the right place where most of the people who are your family live and who will help you. And apparently the rest planes where we go are extremely beautiful. But there's nothing to do. So right now we're all in this lockdown thing, which to an extent has been nice because it was like we're having a holiday. But we're beginning to get bored. 10 weeks have gone by. People have finished digging out their garages and tidying their drawers and doing various things. We're starting to want to go back to work. Most of us have been busy doing something that we've wanted to do forever. But imagine yourself going on holiday forever and being in a sort of aimless place. And you aren't necessarily there with anybody you know very well. So you could find yourself sort of seeing different people all the time. There's nobody, you would be miserable. So really everything is about life. And so all the people on the other side want us to know how precious our lives are and how special, and how we should really make every effort to live, because this earth is the only place where procreation can go on. That's not just for animals, insects, birds, plants, everything. It's the only place where procreation can go on. When you get to the other side and this body is destroyed and will rot, and just, or you have it, you're cremated or whatever, your other body, once it's on the other side, is very similar to the one you have now. You even have a blood supply, but you don't have digestion, and obviously you don't procreate there, but it's just as physical on the other side. And there probably are more dimensions than that, than the two I'm just talking about, here and the other side. But the point is that doesn't really concern us, and it doesn't mean that there's a version of you walking around on another planet somewhere. It means that basically it's a bit like the Vedas. They talk about the doshas, where you've got they describe you in layers. So you've got your corporal body, you've got your pranayama body, which is your nervous system. You've got your, I've forgotten all the different bodies, but anyway, you've got your energy body, and right inside you is your bliss body, your extrasensual perception. Probably the other dimensions, because your brain is supposed to exist on probably at least 7 different dimensions. Probably these other bodies also exist within you on some. I don't understand it, and it hasn't been explained to me. And they say really that the knowledge that we need is only the most simple knowledge, really. Our scientists are always looking for things much more complicated. They're looking for really dangerous drugs they're giving people now that upset the brain, that upset our bodies. I mean, these vaccines that people have been experimenting on, and putting animal viruses into us, and God knows what is sitting there. My sources say that the only thing you need for health is good nutrition, and really you can get everything from the hedgerows that you need for medication. And the body has its own way of healing itself. So really, we have got to start looking at what is on this earth, looking at this beautiful world that we have, stop worrying about outer space, and just start concentrating on making this world beautiful, and also looking after ourselves and our own people, worrying about having children here and bringing them up well and healthily, not putting awful additives in their food and giving them terrible injections which they don't need, and just appreciating what we have.